let's say you want your app to have haptics. Now, what are haptics? Haptics are these vibrations that your phone can do. So like when you get a notification, your phone vibrates. That's called a haptic. So you want them in your app. The common way to do this in Swift is to have a file called haptic manager.swift. That is the common way to implement haptics. This is a file. That's a very bad file icon. And your code for the haptics will live in a class. So inside this file, code would be like class, haptic manager, and then like this. And then you'll have like function, you'll have an init function to like set parameters for your haptics. I won't talk about this in this video. I'll probably talk about it in another video. I'll probably link it here. And you also have the functions, like in here, trigger strong haptics, trigger weak haptic. You'll have multiple functions out that you will call in like your view controller files. When a button gets pressed, you'll trigger this function to trigger the haptic. Now, you want this haptic manager, you want to use it in another file. Let's say your view controller.swift. Inside your view controller.swift. Shorthand is actually just vc.swift, not viewc. That is kind of weird. Inside your view controller.swift, you want to use the haptic manager. Now, there's many ways you could do this. Let's just go over the way that most people do when they're starting out. So in the view controller.swift, there will be code like let h equals haptic manager, right? You're making a reference, you're declaring, you're making an instance of the class. Haptic manager, parentheses, yep. You're making an instance of this class. Then you can do like h.trigger strong haptic or any of the functions, blah, 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 blah. However, you'll find that once your project has like 40 files, 30 files or something, like settings view controller, like this table view, this thing, you'll get like 20 haptic managers running at once. That's not very efficient, right? Of course, there's a way to solve this issue, and that is called a singleton. A singleton, the magical thing. It's spelled like this. It's the word single and then the word ton. This is a singleton. What is the singleton? How do you implement it? So in your haptic manager.swift, in this file, this is just shorthand. The code before, we just had the initial init function like just here. There's nothing guarding it. Firstly, we need to make this init function private. Private init. Why do we want to make it private? Well, we only want one instance of the haptic manager going. That is why it's called a singleton. Single is one. We only want one version of the one haptic manager to take care of everything. Now what you could do is you could save the haptic manager inside a variable. Like, for example, let shared, this is how I commonly do it, shared equals haptic manager. Now, why do we want to do this? It seems very counterintuitive. In the haptic manager file, we've just declared the haptic manager. We made a reference to it. Why do we do that? Well, now when we want to use it in another file, let's say the view controller, we want to use it in the view controller. Now all we have to do is, instead of declaring the haptic manager, making a reference to a haptic manager in every single file, we can just say haptic manager dot shared dot trigger strong haptic. It's that easy. Trigger strong haptic, or whatever function it is. This is all you need. And that's the power of the singleton.